And again, as I've said, there's research that proves it. But okay, I've gotten responses from that uh, in which people clarified their sort of position on that, feeling that this is something that politicians often say. You know, we're sending thoughts and prayers, and then they don't do anything to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, legislatively. In other words, um, we're not supposed to talk about guns and gun violence and the prevalence of guns and the ease with which they are able to be stockpiled. Uh, and no action is taken to curb that, to get that under control. And so the same situations show up again and again. And again and again, politicians say, thoughts and prayers. And on that point, I'm in agreement. But what's happening there, that's politicians. Politicians, giving lip service to something and then not doing anything about it. And that's not a new situation. And, when they say thoughts and prayers, they are not really talking sincerely about, thoughts and prayers. It's just something they say. So on that point, I can absolutely be in agreement. But it's just so important that people understand the power that they have within them through energy. So important. Anyway, moving on. We're here to talk about stress and the relaxation response. We've been talking about how stress can be triggered in hundreds of different ways. And now I'm going to talk about how the relaxation response can counteract the effects that the stress response has on the body. And we're going to talk about a gentleman by the name of Herbert Benson. Herbert Benson is a medical doctor, founder of the Mind Body Medical Institute, and really the foremost pioneer in mind body medicine, which is growing as we become more aware of the truth of the connections between mind and body. He's a precursor to people like Dr. Andrew Weil, who we often talk about on this show, who advocates for not abandoning traditional medicine, but adding on to it through what we now know about mind and body. His research has been groundbreaking in the area of meditation and its amazing benefits. In fact, he thinks of the relaxation response, and he's the one responsible for coining that term, and he thinks of it as a scientific term for meditation, and he describes it as the ability of the body to stimulate relaxation of muscles and organs. What actually happens is that the body remembers its natural state, that natural state that allows it to heal itself. One of his perhaps better known experiments is called the Great Prayer Experiment, basically about just what I've been talking about. The study of the therapeutic effects of intercessory prayer, or STEP. And he started this research in 1998, and he published it in 2006, and it concluded that intercessory prayer has positive health benefits. Okay. Anyway, his study of the relaxation response and meditation has shown the significant role it can play in reducing stress responses. His study on intercessory prayer, which I mentioned, involved three groups of patients. One were those who didn't know whether they were being prayed for or not. Two, those who... I'm sorry. The first group were those uncertain of whether they were being prayed for, who were being prayed for. The second group were those uncertain of whether they were being prayed for, who were not prayed for, and those being prayed for who knew they were being prayed for. So the conclusion of this showed that, and these were patients undergoing coronary artery bypass graft, or CABG surgery. And it showed that while there were benefits for those who were not certain that they were being prayed for, there didn't seem to be benefits for those who were certain of it, which is unusual. But in any case, in the relaxation response area, he wrote this book in 1975. And over the years, he studied thousands of patients and published scores of articles in scholarly medical journals. And through this research, he elicited a list of conditions that respond to the relaxation response. There are likely others, but what he clearly proved was that the relaxation response had positive effects in treating angina, cardiac arrhythmias, allergic skin reactions, anxiety, mild to moderate depression, bronchial asthma, herpes simplex, cough, constipation, diabetes, duodenal ulcers, dizziness, fatigue, hypertension, infertility, insomnia, nausea and vomiting during pregnancy, nervousness, post-operative swelling, premenstrual syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, side effects of cancer, side effects of AIDS, and all forms of pain. All forms of pain. Backaches, headaches, abdominal pain, muscle pain, joint aches, post-operative pain, neck, arm, and leg pain. And in 1975, he published his book, The Relaxation Response, and announced that it was a counterbalance to the fight-or-flight response that had been described decades earlier by Dr. Cannon, who identified this fight-or-flight response, and I believe he was the first to really do that scientifically. Benson's research found that regular elicitation of the relaxation response could prevent and compensate for the damaging effects of this stress on the body, the fight or flight response, preventing disease and sometimes treating it. Benson wanted to know if the same response could be elicited in other activities besides meditation. And so he kept up his research, and he found 4 basic components that could reliably elicit the relaxation response. Number 1 is a quiet environment. Number 2, a mental device like a repeated phrase, a word, a sound, a prayer, even a visual. A passive, non-judgmental attitude. That's that taking the step back that I was talking about. And a comfortable position. Now, as he continued this research, he discovered that only the mental device, whether the word or the phrase or the prayer or the mantra or even the visual, and the passive attitude were necessary. So 2 things necessary to elicit that relaxation response. The mental device to focus your mind, repeated phrase, word, sound, a visual even, and the non-judgmental attitude. Allowing feelings and things to pop up and go down without having a judgment about them. And this is something that you can do in just about anything that you do throughout the day. He found it was true for those doing yoga, or walking, or swimming, or knitting, rowing, sitting, standing, or singing. And throughout his lifetime of research, he found that the majority of medical problems were either caused by or exacerbated by the chronic effects of this stress response on the body. So he began to teach his patients how to elicit this response, how to get into sort of a meditative state. And his steps to this were as follows. You pick a focus word, a short phrase or prayer, like one, or peace, or Hail Mary full of grace, or Shalom, or Om. I personally have used Om and peace. And I sometimes use a visual. And by visual, what I mean is I create an image that represents all of that to me, that represents essentially peace to me. And it's a visual that I came up with images that I focus on, and I just use that because it seems to evoke the energy for me more powerfully than even the word peace or Om does. So just something that you might want to consider if you find that you're having trouble, focusing on a word or a phrase. So then the next step is to sit quietly in a comfortable position, close your eyes, and relax your muscles. And it's a process starting from your feet and then going up to each section of your body, your legs, thighs, abdomen, shoulders, head, and neck, and just kind of let them relax, become aware of them, and breathe into them, breathing slowly and naturally. And as you do, you can say your word, if you have one, silently to yourself as you exhale, or you can focus on your visual. And that's when you take the step back. You take the non-judgmental attitude to whatever comes up. You don't think about whether you're doing well with the meditation. You don't judge yourself on that. Inevitably, other thoughts and things will come to mind, and you accept them. They come up, and you can bless them, you can say thank you,